Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at the current political situation in the country in light of the upcoming general elections early February. And of course, very less time is left to the elections. However, this close to the elections, we are still not seeing the kind of enthusiasm in election campaigns and rallies across the country as perhaps we have seen in previous times. And this is an important discussion with reference to why that is so, and why is it that different political parties are only addressing certain public gatherings, and that seems to be the end of the campaigns without any sort of local campaigns also going in place. There is, of course, a lot of discussion into what is that going to be in terms of the kind of effect that that's going to have on the general population, and whether or not there is still a lot of interest in terms of the voters to actually come out and vote on the election day, whether or not it's going to impact the voter turnout, and what is going to be the influence that this is going to have, especially on the young population, a lot of which, of course, is eligible to vote this time around. So this is going to be important to see in whether or not the election campaigns and rallies that are continuing by the different political parties are targeting this factor as well. At the same time, of course, we've also seen that perhaps there's also a shift in the conventional way in which we've seen election campaigns previously, with a lot of that now perhaps being shifted to social media platforms, and that being the place where different political parties seem to be putting out their messages. Despite that, however, we really haven't seen a true manifesto coming in from different political parties, with one from the PPP coming with regards to different agenda points in terms of what they plan to do if they come into power, and that of the PMLN still being awaited. The date of 27th of January has been given by the party, but of course remains to be seen whether or not the ambitious goal that it set out for itself with regards to the kind of feedback it took from a portal it established for this particular purpose is going to really amount to a very meaningful manifesto or not, and whether or not that is going to garner more criticism than praise. And this is something, of course, that we'll have to see in light of what is going to happen in the elections, and especially in the very last time that is now left. The question, of course, also arises as to who really is looking for these demands from the different political parties in light of what they plan to do if they do come to power. At the same time, we're also going to be taking a look at the way that different political parties and their rallies have resulted with regards to the kind of people that have turned out, the numbers that it has garnered, and the support that they've been able to establish in different cities with traditional strongholds of different political parties. We've seen that the PMLN has held a rally in Mansehra earlier, targeting the KP population. We've seen the PPP also hold a rally in the traditional stronghold of the PMLN in Lahore, claiming that they are going to be able to garner support there, and asking the voters from the area to vote for them instead, and that they're going to end any sort of political vendetta. And this is important, especially in terms of what is being expected with different parties. There's also the MQM rally that was held in Karachi, with them claiming that Karachi has spoken and they've chosen MQMP as the party of the city, and whether or not that's going to actually be a tough one for PPP remains to be seen. So we're going to take a look at all of this in light of the upcoming general elections and try and understand what the current situation is. Our next segment is going to take a look at the developing relations between Pakistan and Iran in the aftermath of the unilateral violation by Iran of Pakistan's sovereignty, and the response that Pakistan gave in this regard. And then after that, of course, there is also an agreement between both the countries towards de-escalation and increased cooperation on counterterrorism activities and other arenas. And in light of that, we see that the foreign minister of Iran is also scheduled to visit Pakistan on the 26th of January. And it's important in terms of the kind of discussion that will be held and the way forward to establish that such attacks are prevented in the future, and there is more cooperation on the counterterrorism front, and that intelligence sharing between the two countries actually results in assurances from the Iranian side that their territory is not going to be used against Pakistan or any others. And so it's going to be an important discussion and visit in terms of the current situation. We're going to take a look at that at the end of the show. For this and more, as always, I've been joined in the studios by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal. We've also been joined online for our first segment, Dr. Niaz Murtaza, who's a political analyst. Thank you very much, Dr. Niaz, for joining us and being part of the discussion. And my first question to you, with reference to where we stand today, it's very, very close to February 8th, the election day, but we unfortunately still haven't really seen the kind of enthusiasm in the general public, in the streets, the way that we have seen previously in Pakistan. The kind of election rallies and campaigns that the country is used to is not being seen this time around. Why is that so?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's what, about 2 weeks, a little more than 2 weeks left to
Yes.
the elections. And, this kind of, lethargy so close to the election is inexplicable. I think there are several factors in play here. First of all, there is a lack of enthusiasm within the general public. I mean, there seems to be, a certain degree of, uh, uh, sort of fatalism that whichever party you look at, it doesn't really have much to offer for the people. And you've tried all three major parties one after the other after 2008. Before 2008, there were about 9 years of dictatorship, and there was a lot of enthusiasm with with the return of democracy, that now people's representatives will do better. So then you tried PPP, then you tried PMLN, and then you tried PTI, and all of them had fairly poor performance. And then you again tried this PDM government, which at least in terms of immediate results was the worst. Now, how much you blame that government and previous governments and the external environment, that's a separate issue. But the fact is that the last 5 or 6 years have been so bad for people, and they don't really see an end to it. Inflation started increasing under PTI in 2018-19, and it's been almost double digit for about 6 years now. And there's no end to sight, and nobody has really good ideas on how they are going to tackle it. It's all the same old ideas, uh, uh, that we are having. So if you look at some of the opinion polls that have come out, what they show is that PTI is number one in Punjab with just a slight majority, like I think 2 or 3% above PMLN, and it's also number one in KP, and then it's number two in Sindh. So overall, it seems that it's the number one party if you go by this poll. But then there is the fact that that party cannot even take part in the elections, at least officially. So that makes PMLN too, and maybe that's made them a bit complacent. So the one which is really putting up some effort going around is probably Bilawal. I think he's held more meetings than some of the other parties, and he seems to be focusing on Punjab, and his strategy is to show that PTI is out of the game, so it's just between PMLN and PPP, and then remind people of the very poor performance of PMLN in the last 16 months. So whether it works or not, that remains to be seen. He's not giving much attention to especially rural Sindh. They're just taking it for granted. He might put in some effort in Karachi. So all in all, lack of new ideas, people's lethargy, fatalism, daily, struggles with, electricity, inflation, and so on. So it's just, a general lack of enthusiasm about the elections.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned a number of rallies by different political parties, and we'll discuss that in further detail as we move on. But Faisal, when we take a look at the way that the election rallies are continuing and the lack of enthusiasm, as was pointed out, I want to then understand how does that impact the kind of voters that are going to turn out at the election day? Do we still have huge numbers coming in? Of course, this time around, in terms of the new census as well, we talk about a large number of population that is eligible to vote, and a lot of them are young. And will they be coming in then this time around? Is that interest still there in the public? Because it seems that there is a lack of enthusiasm from political parties and election campaigns, but is there a lack of interest from the general population in the elections as well?
Sana, that's a very good question, and obviously talking about the youthful Pakistanis, it is quite interesting to see that lately, I mean, with the advent of social media, majority of their activities, they're only seen on social media, be it, rallying for their political parties or whatever. I mean, their source regarding their political activities is entirely becoming as social media. But one thing they have to realize that they can't vote through social media. They have to be reaching out to a ballot box to put their vote in on the voting day. So probably that is what I'm waiting for, because it would be entirely a different election this time around. We can see on social media that there are, it is full of political activities and slogans, and each and everything is going on the social media. But actually on ground it is quite different, because on ground the activities, they are very confined. I mean, the candidates, they are reaching out to people. Some of them, I met couple of them from Sindh province. They were here day before yesterday, and they were telling me a very interesting thing, and they said that we have created WhatsApp groups this time around to actually catch on our voters, especially the young voters. They are sort of in touch with them, and they are telling them that this is the number of votes in our street, in our locality, and we have given your message, and if you can make a video for us and send it over in this group so that we can show them your videos. So these are the tactics which are being applied this time around for campaigns which are being run. Especially, I would say that so many of the candidates who are contesting, as an independent candidates, of course, with the help of, they have the support of PTI. PTI, of course, is not having its own symbol, so they are going through different other symbols, and this is how they are campaigning, because they feel that if they go into public, they might see some hurdles, or maybe public is not out there to greet them or meet them for certain reasons, or they might be busy somewhere else, or probably on social media. So this is what is happening. But if we look at the two other parties, PMLN and People's Party, of course, they are taking the traditional routes, in which, of course, they are having their jalsas, their processions, and in them, of course, they are highlighting whatever they have done in the past for the country. I'm talking about PMLN. They have highlighted that they have created motorways, made motorways, and then they are highlighting that how they achieved nuclear power for Pakistan. And of course, if we talk about People's Party, they are highlighting their slogans as well. And one very important slogan which is being echoed from Bilawal Bhutto's side, it is that he does not believe in politics of revenge, and he is seeking help from youth of PTI as well at the same time, and he wants to influence them in terms that he seeks their help to, of course, stand with them and take the country forward, rather than thinking about taking a revenge from somebody or something like that. So this is quite nice that he is actually coming to jalsas and speaking to people in front of them. These sort of activities, they are being seen by other two parties, but if we talk about PTI, of course, PTI is resorting to other sources, social media platforms, Twitter. They are using X, of course, the new name, and of course they're using Facebook, and all of these tactics they have been applying. So this is quite different election.
Right, and I'm glad you picked that up, because this is an important discussion, Farrukh, in terms of what's going on with reference to social media campaigns. And while we've talked about social media being an important platform for a political party called PTI, we have also said that this perhaps hasn't been used as well by other political parties in terms of putting forward their narrative. And now it seems that a lot of these platforms and the way that election campaigns are running around are being used to put that forward. But is this being done effectively? And whether or not you think that in a lot of ways it has overcome the conventional ways of campaigning of the past, and that the strategies that different political parties seem to employ to be employing with regards to these social media platforms is really making sure that the kind of agenda items they want to communicate and that the audience that they want to target is actually being done?
Right. I think this is an interesting question, because we suddenly actually start acting as if social media is something that was invented yesterday. In 2013, if you remember, because there were elections and after that we had dharnas, everything was actually being handled through social media at that time also. So social media has been around for quite some time. And my problem at this moment is that what I see on social media is lack of content or ability to argue back. Remember, PTI's capacity right now, because it is kind of sort of, as was pointed out by Dr. Saab, retired hurt. Because of that, it actually sees itself as a force for disruption. That means that there are other political parties which will seek to get mandate, and it will try to spring a surprise. But what arguments are coming from the other side is important. So the onus right now is essentially on PMLN. All these arguments that political parties are not conversing, political parties are not coming up with manifesto. We know that People's Party at least came up with its 10-point agenda. We know that Jamaat-e-Islami, ANP, National Party, many other parties have presented their manifestos already, and they're comprehensive manifestos. The only party which kept on dragging its feet, and today I heard that the manifesto is being presented by PMLN on 27th. I'm praying that that is true. I don't know whether it will be or not. But with due respect and lack of campaigning, that also is coming from PMLN. Other parties are active doing whatever they can, with the exception, of course, of PTI because of its own disruptive argument that they are going to somehow spring a surprise. Right now, whatever speed is there, first of all, PMLN had ticketing problem because there were many people within their ranks, especially they had to absorb people coming from PTI, and then they had to actually honor their own loyalists as well. So we had a mini crisis there. After that, again, when it came to manifesto, I heard that it has been delayed because there were counter arguments regarding what to include and what not to. And then, of course, there are many other chaotic things that we see. So PMLN's counter argument on social media is hardly there. I mean, when you look at PTI, whether you agree with them or not, their capacity to keep arguing or making an argument is quite strong. And if you give an argument within 5 seconds, you get a counter argument. That doesn't seem to happen with PMLN. People's Party is perhaps even behind on that score, but at least Bilawal Bhutto Zardari is on streets. So my humble submission is this whole argument that now because we have social media, people who are going out or who were supposed to be mobilized or who had to go to Jalsas, they are not going, I don't buy it. I think that the main party, the front runner, so to speak, at least this is what Grapevine actually has brought to us, that doesn't seem to be actually showing a lot of interest in carrying the torch. So why would that be? There can be two things. A, of course, hubris, that they think that they're made and that's why they don't want to bother too much. The second thing, and that is again a very interesting campaign that is going on, we kept on hearing that Mia Nawaz Sharif is going to be the PM candidate. Then we heard that, okay, he is going to be something like a screensaver, he is going to come and go, and then Shehbaz Sharif will be the Prime Minister. A couple of days ago, we started hearing journalists who are close to PMLN saying that perhaps Maryam Nawaz is also a premier candidate. So with that kind of a situation, because there is confusion even on the name of the candidate, perhaps that is why they haven't been able to mobilize the entire party. We know there is a split inside and it is between two cousins. So one cousin, when she is active, the other one, he is not that active. And when he is active, she is perhaps not that active. That becomes an issue as well.
Right. Dr. Niaz, given these kind of political dynamics that exist and the way that we have seen the campaigns going forward, when we talk about the elections and the way that we want the democracy in the country to flourish, what is going on at this moment? Can this be put, can those who are responsible behind it be the political parties and their decision makers? Or can it be the Election Commission of Pakistan, or can it be the caretaker setup? We have, of course, different people blaming each other for it. But in your opinion, who really is responsible or accountable in making sure that we have that kind of momentum in the elections, both within political parties and in the way that they campaign their manifestos or agendas as well?
I would say none of the above, but we can't even name the one that is responsible for all this. But if I restrict myself to those three choices that you've given me, the caretaker government has a limited role. They are just there to do the daily stuff. It's basically, Election Commission of Pakistan and, the political parties that I would hold most responsible. Election Commission of Pakistan for taking, a lot of controversial decisions like taking away, the party symbol. But then ultimately, the momentum of, the election comes from the parties. And with PTI, you can make some excuse because, all its leaders are either behind bars or, they've been forced to quit PTI. So you just have, a lot of, very inexperienced people like the new president. He's a lawyer. He doesn't have any, electioneering experience or even the other people who are in charge. It's a lot of lawyers. So, what a chance do they have? The only hope they have is that people are so angry, their supporters, at what has been done to PTI, that they would come out on their own without much effort. Now that could happen in the urban areas and with the younger crowd, but when you're talking about the deep rural areas, you still require a lot of effort to get voters out of their homes and up to the election booths. You have to arrange buses, food. So who's going to do all that for PTI now? It's not going to be easy. And I mentioned, the opinion poll, but answering an opinion poll is very different than going and voting in a real election. And given all the hurdles that have been created for PTI, like it tried to have this virtual jalsa, and all of a sudden, mysteriously, the internet developed technical faults at the very same time. Big coincidence. So that is the issue. PMLN is not very good at getting people to their jalsas, but they have a very well-honed machinery in Punjab, especially for getting people out of their homes. And Hamza Shehbaz is supposed to be a champion of that. How to get people out of their homes and up to the booths. So it's quite possible that even if their jalsas are fairly lethargic, if they are able to get their machinery running again and get people out, then it may move towards them. But it's very difficult to predict at this moment, given all the kind of difficulties. There's only been one serious opinion poll, and then so many unknowns. But all in all, I can't really see this election doing a lot of good for democracy, because that is the hope that you have this recharging every 5 years. Those who've been given a chance, they've played their innings. Then their challenges come. They try to come up with better ideas, and they sell those ideas. They create some enthusiasm among people. All that is not happening. Nobody has new ideas. So, and all that this means is that the new government that comes in will not have a lot of strong support from the people, a very strong mandate, which it would need to deal with all the huge challenges we are facing, whether you talk about security, foreign policy, economic, social. There are just so many challenges, and you need a party with very strong mandate, fresh ideas. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Right, but Dr. Niaz, are the people actually putting forward their demand for a strong mandate as well in terms of the different political parties? It seems that, as we've discussed before, there is a lack of manifestos. It's just a 10-point agenda from PPP. We still haven't seen it from the PMLN. And it seems that there is no real need for that to actually come out as well. We're so close to the elections. Is it because there is no demand coming in from the general public? There is no expectation from our leaders with regards to providing these manifestos? There's no push from the ECP. How is it that we then create that impact or mandate if no one's asking for it?
Yeah, well, you can blame the people to some extent, but they're just so tired, and just all around, one problem another: inflation, joblessness, no gas, no electricity, insecurity. So, one actor that we did not name among who's responsible is the media. They also have a role in asking hard questions from politicians, demanding what they have to offer. So the media is also not playing that very strong role. like hard talk type, programs where you put people on the spot and you ask them hard questions, you raise issues, you ask about policies. You don't see all of that too. So I would also blame the media in this regard.
Right. Faisal, when we look at this current situation then in terms of different political parties, I understand that the manifestos aren't there, but in terms of what the leaders have been talking about in terms of their teams and in terms of their previous experiences and what they're putting forward, which party do you think has a plan, especially in terms of our political and economic and security issues?
Yeah, Sana, that's a very good question. Of course, so far we only have one party that has given some kind of agenda related to, what
major party.
Yeah, a major party, and they have just given an agenda, and them 10 points. Very frankly, they only revolve around the problems which are being faced by the people, but the solution is not there. I mean, if you keep on talking about, oh, we'll provide the houses, we'll do this, and related to electricity, we'll do that. But how would you do it? Nobody's talking about it. I mean, they are not talking about it, that how they will fix the economy in coming future. As Dr. Niaz
They are claiming that they will fix it, though.
They will fix it, but how? They are not telling to anyone.
I'm going to have a counter argument, but go on.
Dr. Niaz has raised an excellent point when he said that nobody is talking about the policies. Policies, if we further elaborate it, policies related to IT sector, how they can change Pakistan into a country that is only earning $2.6 billion a year from the IT sector, whereas the experts believe that Pakistan has the capacity of earning more than $50 billion. How to increase that capacity? I mean, nobody is highlighting that, nobody is talking about that, because this is where the problem, the solution to all of the problem lies. And there are certain other things, how to obviously ease the industrial sector of Pakistan so that the export industry can flourish and Pakistan can increase its exports so that we can, of course, gain more dollars from outside. And right now, of course, we know that Pakistan, needs dollar to fix its economy. How are we going to do it? I mean, the different parties, they don't talk about it. So when it comes to the actual policies, the essence, I don't know why they're keeping their cards to their chest and not showing to anyone else. Maybe they have plans, but they don't want to show it to anyone. But I think the season of election is the time when they have to show all of these cards to people to get more vote. That here we are, we have the solutions, vote for us. But nobody's doing it.
Yes, Farrukh.
Right. I just wanted to point out that perhaps my buddy friend is not listening to or watching beloved Bhutto Zardari's speeches, because had he actually braved that, those speeches, he would have noticed that the young man actually keeps on talking about the entire plan. One, he talks about fiscal belt tightening. That is how you actually abolish certain departments which are wasting 200 to 300 billion rupees per annum, and then reallocating those monies to various departments, and that includes, internships, job opportunities, and of course places where people can go and cluster to produce better results. Regarding IT, I suggest that instead of first of all going to political parties, my friend will do something good if he listens to a couple of interviews that were given by the current IT minister. And that is brilliant, because I think that in principle most political parties have consensus about that policy, and I think that current IT minister, brilliant IT minister is also coming up with very effective solutions to increasing our IT production. Having said that, to be honest, when you talk about Pakistan, I usually say Pakistan does not need a prime minister. Pakistan needs a magician or a wizard, because you are earning very little and you have to spend so much. So with that kind of a situation, of course, you have to actually come up with some kind of plan, and that is important that you keep on asking where is the money going to come from. So most of the parties, for example, PMLN, People's Party, these parties, because they were part of the coalition that went out of power recently, they all had actually, consolidated, actually created SIFC. And SIFC is thought to be a solution, a special boat through which you can escape all the crises. So you have to actually bring in various investors into the country, and that's how you get monies.
Right.
Despite that, Dr. Saab actually mentioned various surveys. One survey, I tell you that I've been following surveys in this country for quite some time. In Gallup Pakistan, IRI's survey, and then Pew's survey, whenever they take place, they are very effective within Pakistan as well. But there's a problem. Unlike America, where they can have the luxury of conducting the whole of the nation survey, in Pakistan the biggest problem is that you have electoral politics, you have politics of National Assembly, where you have to have seats. And each seat, whether one party is popular in all constituencies equally, or whether it is consolidated in certain and is not popular in other, is something that is quite interesting and challenging. That's why I hope someday one of the pollsters is going to, constituency by constituency, hold some kind of poll, so that we know where exactly are political parties and how things are shaping up.
Right, and Farrukh, you mentioned, of course, the IT minister and the kind of job that he's doing. And so that brings me to the question with reference to when we talk about whatever plan or idea that is being floated by different political parties, including that of PPP, do they also have a team to back that up? Does any other political party have the right people to do these jobs?
That's a very good idea, very good question. I mean, the only party that can actually boast about a solid team is PMLN, but the problem is that go back to 1990s, the same team is sitting. Go to 2000s, the same team is sitting. To go to 2010s, the same team is sitting. Who's going to be their finance minister? Now we know Ishaq Dar, right? Same people again and again. So the biggest problem is not merely whether you have the right people or not. If you don't, you can find them. But if you have the same people who actually contributed to the same kind of policies that have resulted in where we are at, do I take pride in the fact that a certain party has many people and they can be relied on, or whether I should be worried about the prescription they are going to offer?
Absolutely, that's a valid point. Dr. Niaz, Murtaza, there is also, of course, the MQMP, which has come forward with its own rally in Karachi and is saying that Karachi has actually given forward its own opinion with regards to who it is that they're going to vote for, saying that and claiming that they're going to put up a strong fight against the PPP. In fact, they're saying that the PPP has already lost. So when we take a look at this situation there with the PPP's focus, earlier you also mentioned with reference to Punjab, do you think that Karachi as a previous stronghold of the PPP is losing that sort of emphasis that the party had there and is inclined more towards the MQMP, or do you think this rally wasn't really as effective as is being talked about?
Survey and Farrukh is right, they are not at the constituency level, because that will be very, very expensive. You'll need, a sample size of about 100,000 maybe. But at the national level, I looked at their predictions and then compared that with the national vote of different parties, and they were fairly accurate for 2018 within 3 or 4%, and even more accurate in 2013 within 1 to 2%. And then the next job is to look at how that translates into the number of seats. So the party with the biggest percentage of votes had about 10 to 15% more seats in the last two elections. So if you just take that as your basis, PTI has 34% at the moment. So in Punjab, so that would mean that it will get 40 to 45% of votes there. But then it's just one poll this time, and then the fact that it's not even participating in Karachi. If you look at the Sindh numbers, it was PPP at 42%, then PTI at 19%, and you would assume that most of that is from Karachi, and MQM was, way distant at 4%. So can it make a comeback now that, PTI is out. So I think Karachi is now very, very open, almost like, Balochistan, where it's very hard to protect. And, there's so many small parties that get a few seats each. So, there'll be, the PTI, there'll be the PPP, JI, MQM, even TLP. So it could be a very divided mandate, whether MQM can get that kind of a monopoly that it used to have before, say up to 2013. Again, there's a lot of disappointment even with the MQM. They don't have any charismatic leader, and then the divisions and all. So it's just very, very hard to predict. But yeah, they did have a good jalsa in Karachi a few days back.
Right. I just wanted to actually come back to comment on the polls issue, sir. I remember after 2013, before 2013, Gallup survey was very accurate, and similarly in 2018 also. But at that time, their sample size was far bigger than this one. And then I went to their presentations also, particularly interaction with Ijaz Shafiq Irlani and others. And they actually showed us how meticulous the homework was. This time it seemed, of course, Gallup Pakistan might be doing the right thing, but there are many others which are pointing in a very different kind of direction. Recently there was another survey in Lahore which showed that PMLN is winning. But I am sure that I actually treat such surveys with a pinch of salt. But do you think that is it not about time that we ask for a constituency-based survey as well in the country?
Well, again, as you are aware, even in the USA, they look at the polls of polls, which is the average of, say, 7 or 8 polls, and that is usually the most accurate one. So I was not looking at any individual company, but I took, say, the last 4 in 2018 because there were more there. And then in 2013, I could only find 2. And if I took the average, then it was better than any individual company. But again, as I said, doing constituency level is very, very expensive. For each constituency, you will need a representative sample of maybe 500 to 1,000 people. And if you multiply that by 272 constituencies, that's huge, and it's very, costly, of course. Even in the US, if you see, the House of Representatives, you don't see, polls for each seat in the House of Representatives because there's 435 seats. You get, these overall surveys, and then you get surveys for the battleground states, not even every...
With due respect, when it comes to America, particularly regarding each constituency, there are local teams as well which actually have cooperation with the other pollsters, and they also come up with it. They are not reported as much, but they also contribute to the whole picture. So they have all 3 tiers of actually surveys that are carried out. With due respect, in this country, we have to ask for this as well.
Yeah, but of course they have more money. It's easier, they just go on the phone. It's much easier to contact people. In Pakistan, the cell phone network is not so deep. So there are much more challenges. So if you look at all the challenges, they don't do such a bad job. And then, of course, yeah, okay.
Thank you, Dr. Niaz. Murtaza, that's all that we have time for, but thank you for joining us and being part of the discussion. We're going to now talk about our next segment, which takes a look at the Iranian foreign minister's visit to Pakistan. And of course, this is coming in the aftermath of the tensions between the two countries that have now moved towards de-escalation. And there's, of course, a lot of talk towards cooperation. And Faisal, what do we expect from this particular visit, and how will it help with the current efforts towards de-escalation and increasing cooperation, particularly with regards to counterterrorism activities?
Sana, when it comes to this visit will be pivotal when it comes to, of course, Pakistan's and at the same time Iran's efforts to eradicate terrorism from both of the countries. Of course, I'm talking about Iran, because Iran keeps on highlighting that it has the troubled provinces, Sistan, of course, and they have problems out there. And the similar elements, BLF, of course, they are posing a challenge to them, and them people are the very people who are actually, creating troubles in Pakistan as well. They are involved in terrorism in Pakistan as well. So both of the countries sitting down together. It should have been done long ago, but of course, if we talk about Iranians, they have been very hasty when it comes to taking the action rather than applying the wisdom. They actually resorted to taking action in their own hands, and they did it. And then they saw that if they are going to, of course, violate the sovereignty and, of course, cross the border and do some activity, then they will be getting a reply from Pakistan side. But now I'm so happy that both of the countries, they don't need anyone to come in between for mediation, and both of the countries, they will be sitting down. Sana, I want to hail Foreign Minister Jilani's efforts as well, because he was so quick, straight away after Pakistan actually, did the activity in Iran, inside Iran, against the terrorists sitting out there, and it was proven later on that it was the terrorists who were hit, because none of the Iranians was hit by it. And Iranian authorities, they claimed that all of them, they were of course foreigners, and Pakistan's intelligence agencies, they did their excellent service. They pointed out, and then later on, of course, the targets, they were hit bang on target, and all of them, they were eliminated. And Foreign Minister Jilani, he played his excellent role. Then if we talk about our security services, intelligence services, brilliant role played by them. And now, of course, Foreign Minister of Iran coming to Pakistan, it is going to be pivotal, because I'm seeing that in future the intelligence sharing and the coordination to further counter all of these terrorists would be very easier for both of countries, and I think this is how it should be.
Right, and Farrukh, of course, this is what's happening in the immediate aftermath of these tensions, and we're glad that it's moving towards de-escalation and the foreign minister is coming. But I want to know whether or not this will then eventually move towards meaningful and long-lasting cooperation in terms of tangible action that Iran needs to take to ensure that our territory is protected from any sort of terrorist havens or hideouts in Iraq.
Very, very good question. And I, honestly, in my long life, I've seen some very quick escalations. Right? I've never seen a quick de-escalation. This was perhaps the fastest de-escalation of my life. And I'm saying this because if you have actually gone on to social media, you must have seen various memes also that are made. There's one from a Bollywood movie where Anjuman and Munawar Zarif are standing in front of each other, and they actually slap each other, and then all of a sudden fall in love. Yeah. So this is that kind of a situation which actually speaks to the political will on both sides. I think that both countries somewhere realized that they need each other, and because they need each other, that's why this relationship should not go south, and that's why they need to actually work together. And of course, we have many partners which are common and which are very important. For example, China is one partner on both sides which is common. Then we also, I was surprised to hear when the escalation was going on. At that time, the State Department also said that America is also playing a role in de-escalation. Otherwise, if I were there, perhaps I would have actually wanted to see some confrontation, because again, Iran would have been actually, further cornered, but they also played a role. Similarly, UN's General Secretary. So I am hoping that in coming days, when we communicate again, both sides can actually control their elements of power within their own grasp, right? And ensure that nobody is so trigger happy that they end up actually creating an international diplomatic situation. Then of course there are many other issues. For example, economic cooperation is something that deserves to be there, and we have been actually, there have been bottlenecks there. Similarly, when it comes to law and order issue, both countries might have concerns, so we have to work together. We have mechanisms. Somehow those mechanisms were bypassed on 16th of January. So I'm hoping that in coming days, instead of these mechanisms becoming a room of requirement that they come and go at will, they are there whenever we need them.
Absolutely, and that is of course the hope. Thank you, Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us and being part of the debate. As always, we'll now see you tomorrow.